Halo, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to my presentation in the 4th International Conference on Elementary Education 2021, held by Elementary Education Department, School of Postgraduate, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. I'm Zainal Abidin. I'm doctoral student in Elementary Education Department, School of Postgraduate, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. For this opportunity, I'd like to present my article. And let's start the presentation. For this time, I'd like to present my article that have title, Why Did Elementary Students Have Difficulty Working in Mathematical Literacy Question? My research is an analysis of mathematical disposition. Let's start with the background. As we know that mathematical literacy is one of the important things in learning process because mathematical literacy is one of the indicator from the international test. As you can see in my presentation, we have two international tests that you can see. This is PISA and TIMSS. First, PISA showed that mathematical literacy of Indonesia students is really low. It showed that from 70 countries that participate in PISA test, Indonesia just have ranked in 63 in mathematics. Furthermore, in TIMSS test, Indonesia students are ranked 45 out of 50 countries that participate. It means that mathematical literacy of Indonesia students is really low. It's really bad. It's really poor and below the international average. I think from the international test, we can get a conclusion that mathematical literacy of Indonesian students is really low and should improve the mathematical literacy. So Indonesia government make a regulation, a new regulation or new program in the national examination standard, or we call minimum competency assessment, or we can call AKM. That program is to evaluate mathematical learning process in school, especially in elementary education, and to improving the mathematical literacy. But I think when we want to improve the mathematical literacy, we should to know about the reason why the student have bad rank in the international test. So I think the first step we should to know is why Indonesia students have difficulty working on mathematical literacy equation. Isn't right? We will next to the method. My research have a qualitative methodology design with the participant 24 students in Bandung in the 4th grade elementary school. Actually, the purpose of selecting the topic is to gather as much information as possible from a variety of sources, of course. And then 5 students were chosen for additional interview out of a total my participant. My participant divide by gender, so I have 14 girls and 10 boys in my research. My participant working the mathematical literacy. Mathematical literacy instrument was utilized to answer the following indicators by Rizky and Priyatna 2019. The indicator are first knowing what information is needed and what is not needed. The second is make a picture or representation of problem. Third, guessing a problem. And next is organizing a problem with relevant prior knowledge. And the last but not the least, evaluating the information of the problem. So we will continue to the result of my research. Actually, I have 5 results from my study. The first result show that students don't understand the language, such as word, phrases, sentences, and story context. As you can see in my presentation, in the first picture, student cannot conjecture and calculate the mathematical concept. Student didn't know what is the meaning from the context. They confuse the strategy and procedure for solving the math problem. The second one, student unable to make a mathematical model or make a representation of the problem. You can see in the picture, actually the student should make a 5 bag of candies, but in this answer, the student just made 4 bag of candies. The conclusion, students actually have understand how to solve the problem. The problem is they still have a missing concept and they didn't want to check the answer. So I think the problem is students should to check or recheck the answer. The next result in my research show that students have a mistake in mathematical procedural. They didn't know what they are doing. They just trial and error for solving the problem. So they didn't know how the best strategy to solve the problem, how the way of thinking to solve the problem. The part result show that students don't understand mathematical concept. Students didn't have a good prior knowledge about math concept. In this context, the student didn't understand about the discount concept. They confuse what should they do in with the discount, it plus or minus or another. And they didn't know the procedure and the strategy for solving the mathematical problem and this context about discount. And the last result is show that students have weak fighting power. Students didn't want to try solve the math problem. They didn't excited when I give them the context about mathematical problem. And the learning process, as my interview, didn't facilitate them for having fighting power in solving the mathematical problem. They just follow the teacher way of thinking. They just follow the teacher procedural in solving the problem. So I think the learning process didn't facilitate students to improve to enhance mathematical literacy and mathematical proficiency. So what is the discussion? I have two discussions in this research. The first discussion is all about disposition. As we know that disposition is one of the important things in Mathematica. Why? Because when students have a good disposition, mathematics, or we call productive disposition, student will make in mathematics to be a fun learning activity. Student mindset will think that Mathematica is really useful in the daily context. Yaniawati et al. 2019 said that productive disposition can be interpreted as a positive perception of mathematics. Furthermore, productive disposition is the habit of cultivating a positive attitude and the habit of seeing mathematics as something logical and useful. The key from the disposition mathematics is something logical and useful. Next to the second discussion, when the student have a good disposition mathematics, or we call productive disposition, automatically the mathematical proficiency or mathematical literacy will improve, will enhance to be a good. Why? Because Boger-Turner et al. 2021 state that student with a good productive disposition is more likely to gain mathematical skill in terms of conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, strategic competency, and adaptive learning. Actually, when the student have good disposition mathematics or productive mathematics, automatically will improve another mathematical proficiency. So we have a conclusion about my article. We have 5 factors cause students to find it hard to work on mathematical literacy equation. The first, students have not understood the language, phrases, words, sentences, and context of the story. Second, students were unable to make mathematical models or problem representation. Third, student didn't understand mathematical concept. The next is student had wrong in performing mathematical procedure. And the last, or the fifth, student were weak fighting forward. From all the factors, students have a negative disposition. cause students to be unable or unwilling to solve mathematical literacy problem. But the important thing from my research is the implication of this study. The implication of this study so that what must be improved to change the negative mathematical disposition to be a positive or productive disposition. What should we do? The way we want to change the negative mathematical disposition is just improve quality mathematics learning in elementary school. So the key of the problem is change the learning process about mathematics. So when we have a good mathematics learning process, it will be impact to disposition mathematics and will be impact to mathematical literacy. So I think enough for my presentation. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your attention. I hope we can meet another opportunity or another international conference. See you when I see you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Goodbye.